Yo, what is up, y'all? My name is Rob Donaldson, and welcome back to another edition of Rob's Best Bets. And in this episode, we are once again talking about college football, baby. And we are talking about the bowl season. We are talking about the college football playoff. And in this episode, we are going to have, bets throughout the bowl season, not on every single bowl, but in specific bowls that I'm going to have a bet on, I'm going to have in this video. And also the college football playoff, we have a bet on every single game in terms of the round one matchups, as well as 2 college football playoff futures that we're going to be throwing in this video as well. Very excited to get into those. And for those who might be curious about the record, because there might be 5 extra, wins and losses here in terms of, an update from the last video. And yes, obviously we killed it during conference championship season. At the same time, we also had 5 futures that rounded into form with a final result. We went 2-3 for what amounted to a negative 0.15 net result for our 5 futures that were still left over that we hadn't updated prior to this episode. But that's factored into this record that you're seeing right here. And on the entire regular season, college football treated us all right. It wasn't the most incredible season that we've had in years past, but certainly when you're bringing in 18.20 units in a season, that's pretty darn strong. And you can walk away feeling like, all right, that treated us okay. Let's go ahead and finish off the season strong. And that's what I plan to do here in this episode as we go through our bowl game bets and our college football playoff bets. But with all that being said, y'all, before we hop into the picks, I do want to take a second to shout out today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. And if you haven't already signed up using promo code ROBDFB, I highly recommend you guys do so. We are going to be rolling out a bunch of player entries throughout the bowl season, throughout the college football playoff, over on my Twitter/X page at RobDFB. So make sure you guys are signing up using my promo code, and make sure you guys are following me over there to stay in the loop for all of our player entries. But with all that being said, y'all, let's go ahead and jump into these picks here in the college football bowl season, as well as the college football playoff. All right, first up, we are leading off with the college football playoff games. We're going to go in the row in terms of the college football playoff games round 1, and then we're going to jump into kind of the regular bowl games along with Army and Navy. And in this first game here between Alabama and Oklahoma, this is in Norman, Oklahoma, and obviously Oklahoma went into Tuscaloosa and they beat this Alabama team just a few weeks ago. And Alabama, the last time we saw them on the field, and we called it, we were very, very heavy on Georgia in that SEC championship game on the money line, getting a great price, and Bama looked like shit. And to be honest, Bama has been looking like shit for multiple weeks, and even if you go back to week 1 when they played Florida State, this team got bounced bad by Florida State, who ended up missing an entire bowl season because they played so poorly. And I get it. Alabama's a big brand. They're a big brand because of Nick Saban, but under Kalen DeBoer, this brand is about to get bashed. And I do think it starts here in round 1 of the college football playoffs on a national scale where everybody's paying attention to the very first game of the college football playoff cycle. And for that reason, I say we go ahead and we take the Sooners here on the money line for 4 units for our first bet here in the college football playoff. For pick number 2 here in the college football playoff, we are heading down to College Station, Texas, where we have a game here between Miami and the Texas A&M Aggies. And Miami was kind of the dramatic piece in all of this puzzle because they snuck in on the very last day by jumping Notre Dame to make it to College Station, to make it into the college football playoff. And when you are looking at how Miami finished their season, Obviously, it wasn't with an ACC championship, and there were some games down the stretch where Miami did look shaky. At the same time, there were some games where they absolutely blew out inferior competition. And so, where do you gauge this team that does have a good defense, has a semblance of an offense, and a really good ground game as kind of their bump in that on that side of the ball, versus a defense in Texas A&M that can really get after the passer, but I think is actually somewhat susceptible against the run when there is a good game plan from that aspect. And I end up kind of thinking that this game in particular is actually going to turn into a little bit of an offensive showcase. And for that reason, although I would love to pick a side here, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to pick a total of 51.5 going over. I get it. Mike Elko, the Miami defense, there's a lot of things that could go wrong here in terms of taking an over, but I think these offenses are going to be juiced up. I think there's going to be some nerves in terms of the pass rush here, and I think the gamers are on the offensive side of the ball when you look at both teams, and for that reason, I say we go ahead and we take that over for 2 units for our second bet here in the college football playoff. For pick number 3, we are heading out to a matchup between Tulane and Ole Miss. And when you are looking at this game here, obviously both coaches kind of took new jobs. They won't be at their respective schools next year. But in terms of Lane Kiffin, he's already not there. I mean, Ole Miss didn't let him coach, but I don't know why Lane Kiffin would expect them, I guess, to let him coach. I think the best chance that Ole Miss had on winning a national championship is obviously with Lane Kiffin at the helm, whether it was as the incumbent head coach or as a head coach in sort of leaving. But hey, it is what it is. We got the matchup that we got. And I do feel like when you are a team like Tulane that's feeling a lot of disrespect right now, and you are coming off of a game back in September where you got absolutely bounced in Oxford, Mississippi against the same team, 45-10, I think a lot of things are kind of stacking up for a motivational spot for Tulane here. And Tulane is a better team than they were at the beginning of the season. I know they were catching a lot of hype as a G5 right out the gate because they were able to beat Duke. They were putting together some good performances, but I didn't feel like they were playing their best ball until literally right now. And when you are looking at this game and looking at the different angles, I think a 17.5 point line is going to tempt a lot of people that think, oh, hey, Ole Miss already won this game by 35. Now they're just laying 17.5. Who cares if Lane Kiffin is there? Who cares if there's distractions? I want in on the Ole Miss side, and I get the appeal, but I think you're dead wrong if you're taking the Rebels here. And for that reason, let's go ahead and let's take the 17.5 points here for 3.5 units, and for an additional full unit, let's go ahead and bet Tulane on the first half money line here as well. All right, for our final round 1 pick here in the college football playoff, we are taking a look at a matchup here between James Madison and Oregon. And this is just a matchup that when you look at Oregon, last year, obviously, they got bounced right away. After they got the bye, they just were not prepared for Ohio State. The far inferior team, in my opinion, they were in that matchup. But they also, I think, kind of almost served as a detriment, the fact that they had a layoff between the Big Ten championship game that they won over Penn State and that matchup with Ohio State. And here, there's no such layoff in terms of kind of that dynamic at play, but they also didn't play last week, and James Madison did. How does that factor in here? Well, I think if you're Dan Lanning and you don't have your boys ready to just step on the absolute gas in this game, did you really learn a lesson last year? And is that really kind of up to code with what we know about Dan Lanning's teams? I just flat out don't think so. I think we're going to see the best version of Oregon in this matchup at home to open up the college football playoffs for themselves, to give them a chance to make a serious run at this thing. And I really truly believe that although James Madison is deserving of being here and that they are a good team, they are running into the wrong team in round 1 here. And for that reason, I say we go ahead and we lay the 21.5 points here for 3 units for our final bet here in round 1 of the college football playoff. Now, before we jump into the rest of our bowl game bets, let's go ahead and place 2 futures here on 2 different college football teams in the college football playoff as futures to actually win the whole thing. We're not going to place any futures to make the semifinals or to, make it to the championship game. No, we're going full bore to win the championship game. This is the market that we dialed into last year with a plus 550 on Ohio State. We placed 2 units on that bet. It cashed very, very handily. Never even felt like I was sweating that one, honestly, in any of the rounds that they played. And hopefully one of these 2 bets ends up kind of serving that same benefit to us when it's all said and done. But the first one we're going to be taking a look at here is a plus 600 wager on Georgia to win the national title. We're just going 1 unit here. I think that when you look at how Georgia's playing defense over recent weeks, this unit's on fire. And this Georgia team to start the year was very, very bad defensively. I would label them one of the kind of falsest brands in college football through the first half of the season because they were a turnstile on that side of the ball in a number of different games. But that has been corrected. And when you're talking about neutral sites, when you're talking about them already getting a bye as well in this thing, I think they're going to be really well suited to make a run to the national title and then to win the national title. So let's go ahead and place 1 unit on this plus 600 future for the Georgia Bulldogs to win the college football playoff. And the next one we're going to be taking a look at here is a team that we actually just got done talking about, but it's the Oregon Ducks at plus 800. Once again, we're going to be wagering 1 unit. And my goodness, y'all, when you look at Oregon last year, they had a great year. They had a great run. They won the Big Ten championship. Everything felt right. And then they had that layoff, and then they got absolutely just bounced by Ohio State in that matchup there. And I do feel like that lingers with teams that are coached by really intense, really great head coaches. I think we saw that come out of Oregon in a number of different spots this season. And I do feel like Oregon, once again, is going to have a really good chance to win this whole thing with offense, with defense, with a really great head coach. And for that reason, we're going to go ahead and take the Oregon Ducks as our second team to win the whole thing. I feel like they have a really good path, and I really do think that this team is up to code with the champions that we've seen in the past. So those are going to be our 2 futures that we place here in the college football playoff. And I'm sort of changing my mind here, but we're going to make this the end of this video. We're going to have the college football playoff kind of stand on its own. We're going to have the Army game, Army-Navy game, and the rest of the bowl games that we have bets on in a different separate video on this channel. So make sure you guys tune into that. But hey, if you appreciated this video, if you have a comment to leave, because I'm sure you got some feedback or some opinions of your own, make sure you drop a like down below and drop a comment down below. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel. But with all that being said, y'all, I will see you in a future video. Take it easy.